What's going on, guys? It's Krause here. Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're going to be bringing back the bike tutorial series after the success of the first one that I did where I taught you guys 5 beginner bike tricks. Today we're running it back. This time we're going to teach you guys 5 intermediate bike tricks. And not only that, we do have a special guest for the first time, well, I guess technically the second time in the videos. The bike we'll be riding today is none other than, of course, the Inspired 4Play. This is going to be a fun video. Let's take a look at the tricks that I'll be teaching you today. The 5 tricks I will be covering today will be the manual, the 360, rear hops, endo 180, and then we're going to finish with some foot jam tail whips. I'm excited. Let's get into it. Starting things off with the manual, guys, and some of you might remember this was actually in the end of my beginner 5 tricks video that I did, but I keep getting so many questions about this trick, so I'm going to help you guys, and it's definitely a beginner / intermediate trick. So let's get into the manuals. First step of the manual, guys, is getting that front wheel off the ground. Now it's pretty simple. All you have to do is be rolling at a comfortable pace here, and you want to bend your arms roughly 90 degrees, get your chest over the bars, and then you're going to pull back as hard as you can and really get that weight of yours right over that rear wheel. So as you can see, guys, this is rolling at a comfortable pace here. I'm going to bend my arms, get my chest over the bars, and then I'm going to pull back, lock out my arms, and have my weight come right over that rear tire. Now I want you guys to think, when you're pulling your front wheel off the ground, locking out your arms, I want you to feel like you are pulling so hard that you could flip off the back of the bike. This is a crucial part of learning the manual, guys. You have to become 100% comfortable with stepping off the back of the bike when the manual goes too far back. Moving things right along, guys. Now that you're feeling comfortable jumping off the back of the bike, it's time to incorporate a little bit of this guy. When you guys are in the manual now and you feel like you might be going too far backwards and you're about to step off, all you have to do is start applying a little bit of rear brake. Depending on how touchy your rear brakes are will be depending on how much rear brake you use. You obviously don't want to grab it too much that the front just slams back into the ground. Don't do that. And you definitely don't want to grab it too little that the bike keeps going on you and you end up back here somewhere. I'll give you an example of using the rear brake to sort of just keep the bike going. Too far back, and as you can see, with the use of my rear brake there, I'm able to stay in the manual. So now we've definitely covered most of the major factors that comes into play when you're learning the manuals, but there's still a few little quick things that I would like to touch on. A question I receive all the time. So now that you're using your rear brake to keep you from going too far back, what do you do about the front wheel dropping too low and you want to bring it back up to you? All you have to do there, guys, is start using your knees. When you're in the manual and you feel like you're gonna be losing the front to the ground, it's gonna start going down, all you have to do is really straighten out your legs as much as possible. And what that's going to do is put your body weight over the rear tire more and hopefully start bringing up that front wheel again. You can do the same thing for going too far back. So if you feel like you're going too far back on the bike, you can really bend your knees and that will help keep the front wheel down a bit. Let me show you an example. I think the key thing here, guys, is just watch how much my knees move. I'll purposely do a manual with no rear brake and you'll see how much my knees are constantly adjusting my body weight to keep me right in the sweet spot. So that one had a bit of everything. Make sure you guys really put in the time to learn those manuals. It's a really fun trick and it's really great to be able to go really fast down a hill in manual, but it's also really great to sort of link up other parts of the skate park or the dirt jumps. Manual possibilities are absolutely endless. Make sure you learn them. Straight into trick number 2 here, guys. Yes, we did change the order up. I'm going to teach you guys the endo 180. Let's get into it. Now, I'm sure it goes without saying here, but a prerequisite for this trick, guys, would obviously be just the regular endo. It's definitely not impossible to learn them without knowing this trick, but obviously you're going to give yourself probably a better chance if you're comfortable with the regular endo. That being said, let's get into step number 1. Step number 1, guys, is working out which way you would prefer to turn the bike. Now, it doesn't matter if you turn to the left or you turn to the right, but let me give you some tips. So for me personally, guys, I ride with my right foot forward on the bike. So that sort of means that when it comes to this trick, I would naturally, again, it doesn't really matter which way you go, but the best way to go is to my left. So I'm right foot forward and I'm gonna be turning this way towards the back foot of my bike. If you're a left foot forward type rider, you might wanna think about turning to your right. When you're first trying this for the first ever time, definitely roll at a sort of slow, medium pace, medium slow pace. And I'm gonna pretend I'm doing a regular endo. However, this time I'm gonna start turning my wheel just like that. And you can see already the bike just wants to start turning. That's a really good stage for you guys to be at. So now that you've got your first little attempts out of the way there, guys, this is definitely the hardest part of the trick, but the good news is this is the only hard part. And once you can conquer this next stage, you're pretty much good to go just forever. The most crucial part when it comes to learning the endo 180 is getting your whole body to do the 180 as well as the bike. A lot of people will spend a lot of time being stuck at the stage where they're sort of getting into the endo and going to turn, and their bike sort of drifts out to the side like so, and the bike doesn't go any further than that. But that is not what the trick is at all. You have to get your body to do the 180 as well as the bike. When I'm doing the trick, I am not focusing at all on flicking my legs out towards the side of me or anything like that. All I'm doing, guys, is really simple. With the bars turning, I am looking with my eyes in the direction that I want to be going. And therefore, as I look, my shoulders are turning and even my hips are turning with the bike too. This is going to keep the bike with me, under me, and I'm going to be stuck in that 180 and looking exactly where I'm going to go, and the bike's going to go exactly where I'm looking. I got lost in my own words there, but you guys get the point. That's probably most of the important things covered, guys, when it comes to learning this trick. Again, it's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to it. One thing I would like to touch on would be definitely have your weight sort of over the bars. You don't need to be crazy with it and like have the potential of flipping the bars, but you don't want to be back here and sort of sat back on the bike. You really need to sort of get up near that front wheel and have the whole rotation go like that. Again, just like the manual, this is a really fun trick to learn, guys, because you can take it absolutely everywhere once you've learned it. You can take it off drops, you can jump into them, you can up it into a full 360 endo if you'd like. The possibilities are endless. Let's move on to the next trick. I'd like to touch on, guys, we are obviously just getting through these tricks. We're not rushing through them, but we're definitely not going crazy in depth with like a 10-minute video for one trick. There's plenty of videos out there like that. This video is designed to be, I guess, bang for your buck. 5 tricks in one video. We're up to trick number 3, which was the rear hops. Let's get into it. Easily one of the funnest tricks to learn. And yes, this trick can be achieved on any bike. I don't want to see any excuses in the comments below. Enduro, any bike, I've seen it all done before. Let's get into some tips. Step number 1, and you guys should be pretty good at this by now because you've just learned the manuals. What we're going to be doing is getting up onto our rear wheel by lifting our front wheel off the ground. So I guess there's 2 sort of different ways, guys, that you can go about getting into this trick and starting to learn it. Option number 1, we're going to take what we learned earlier in the manual tutorial, and all we're going to do is roll in at a slowish speed this time, and we're going to bend our arms and pull back, have our weight right over this rear wheel, and what we're going to do is then lock our rear brake. So here we go, and back, and then I'm locking the rear brake just like that. That's option number 1. Option number 2, some of you might prefer this way. Have your dominant foot forward on the bike. So again, I am right foot forward. And what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm going to crank down on the pedals and then lift the bars up towards my chest, like so. And I'll show you guys a few of those in a row. Stop, crank, pull, stop, crank, and pull, stop, crank, and pull up on the bars just like that. Keep in mind, guys, this goes for every trick that I'm going to be teaching you today. Do not get discouraged when it comes to learning these. They are all quite tricky. That's why they're in the intermediate range here. None of these tricks are meant to come to you first try or in the first day or even the first week or even the first month. It takes practice, so especially with this trick, because it's starting to get a bit funky now, up on the rear wheel and all that. Make sure you put in the time to learn this trick. You can do absolutely anything. So now that you're getting up onto the rear wheel and locking that rear brake just like so, all you're gonna do is sort of let the front wheel start dropping again, and then you're gonna crank with that pedal and apply the rear brake again. So like that. And then like that. We'll get on the bike and show you guys now what I mean. And you're just gonna try and get some sort of feel, because doing this is sort of what the actual trick feels like. Here we go, guys. I'm gonna be using option number 2 to get up on my rear wheel, and I'm gonna lock the rear brake like so. And then when the front wheel drops, I'm gonna crank and crank and apply the rear brake. Let me go into some further detail here, because I seem to have lost my girlfriend behind the camera. She has no idea what I'm talking about. So maybe you guys at home don't know what I'm talking about either. Again, we're gonna crank on our pedals and get that front wheel up, and then we're gonna lock our rear brake. You're gonna sort of have the front wheel drop towards the ground, I guess. Obviously, release your rear brake, crank on the pedals again, and then you're gonna catch it again with the rear brake. So again, guys, step 1, I'm gonna get up onto the rear wheel and rear brake. The front's going down, I'm gonna crank my pedals and catch it with the rear brake again. But as you guys can see, I'm in a rhythm of cranking, rear brake, cranking, rear brake, cranking, rear brake, and I've done a full circle.
Okay.
Once you jump on your bike, guys, I think that stage there will make a lot more sense. Again, it's really not overcomplicated. It just sounds complicated to explain. Anyways, now that you're confident doing what I've just been doing up on the rear wheel, I think that's a great way of practicing. All that's really left to do, guys, when you crank forwards to move forward on the bike, this time around, you're gonna add just a little hop on your rear wheel. So here we go, up onto the rear wheel. And this time, I'm hopping forward. Instead of just cranking along the ground, I'm just getting a bit of air time. and locking the rear brake as I go. And snapping the cranks as I
You
go.
want to check
Oh, these
them?
are the new ones too.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh no. That's a wrap on trick number 3, guys. Hopefully I didn't miss anything for you guys. We're gonna move things right along. If you have any questions about the tricks that I'm teaching, obviously, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'm sure there's other riders out there who will also be able to help and give some advice on some of these tricks. Trick number 4 was the 360. Let's get it. So, the 360, guys, unlike trick number 3, the rear hops, this trick is a lot less technical. I'm sure most of you could probably just get on your bike and try send a 360 for the first time. We're not gonna be doing that though, of course. Everyone knows what a 360 is. Let's take a look at doing them on the bike. So it's actually really important, guys, that we do talk about the prerequisite to the 360 here, which is of course the 180, because this trick definitely encompasses a lot of things that are involved with doing the 360. What I'm doing is I'm rolling at a pretty comfortable pace, and it's really important here again, guys, that I'm generating sort of momentum on the ground, turning in the direction that I'm going to be doing the 180, pulling up on the bars, and then I'm starting to look, turn, everything with my shoulders to get that bike around. Another really important step is I like to have my front bars here sort of high towards my chest. You don't want to be sort of spread out here doing a 180, otherwise you'll have a very flat rotated 180. So what I like to think is, guys, when I do the 180, I'm really pulling the front wheel up to sort of my chest sort of area there and letting the rear wheel sort of rotate underneath. So I figured, guys, it was important for me to briefly cover the 180 steps, because all we're doing now for the 360 is we're going to take those steps and really start emphasizing everything. Let's take a look. So when it comes to the 360 now, guys, definitely feel free to obviously try this somewhere that is not the flat ground where we're trying this today. Definitely take this out of a bank so you can get some extra air. Take it to the skate park with a quarter pipe so you can get even more air. Definitely air is key. On the flat ground here is obviously sort of the hardest version of the 360 that you can get, because you obviously got this much air time, but it's absolutely possible. Let's take a look at the steps. So right off the bat, guys, things are going to start changing with the preparation compared to a 180 to the 360, because again, we are emphasizing absolutely every step that there is. So for the 360, guys, I'm going to come in and I turn to the left this way. So what I'm going to do with my bike is sort of start to turn this way and turn back on myself like that, helping me generate momentum for when I'm starting to do the turn. So now that you've sorted out the preparation, guys, what's next is really doing a turn with your whole body, so much so that you can almost look back forwards again like a bird or something. To draw similarities from the 180, guys, what I'm doing is I'm pulling the bars towards me. Again, I'm not staying open and flat when I'm trying this trick. I'm very much sort of jumping into it and having the bike sort of come up with me, keeping myself in a more tucked, I guess, overall position, therefore helping the rotation go a lot around quicker, rather than, again, yeah, sort of being open and flat. It does not work like that. So as you guys can see right there, the bike's sort of tucked up in the air with me. I'm not leaving it down there. I'm sort of tucking everything up, knees are bent, and I'm in the 360, generating that spin, looking where I want to go. That's the 360. We're moving right along. Trick number 5. We've got the foot jam tail whip. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so the foot jam tail whip, I think it's firstly important to distinguish that we're going to be learning today using our front brake. A lot of BMXers don't have brakes, so they sort of use a different technique. Today's video's tutorial is going to be the one using the front brake. And it's a good thing we're up to trick number 5 here, guys, because we are rapidly losing light right now. The sun is setting right behind us. Luckily, we're up to trick number 5. Let's get into it. I guess first things first here, guys, very important is working out if your bike is capable of even doing the trick, because a lot of you might be on mountain bikes that of course have cables and all that that are not set up to spin. A good way to test is, can your bars spin around completely in one direction? Do this very gently at home. Don't just get on your bike and try and do that, because you might rip something out. Just gently go around, and if you see obviously your cable's getting all tight and stuff, stop doing what you're doing. Maybe this trick isn't for you.
As we said, it's sunset, so
We might have to move spot just because the birds are nesting because it's bedtime. Okay, we moved about 50 meters away, and you can probably no doubt still hear them somewhat in the background because they are noisy as. Anyways, very fun trick to learn, guys. This trick can obviously be done in many different variations. We'll touch on that a bit later. But first things first, I guess, is discovering which foot you want to try this with. You can either do it with your front foot, or you can try and do it with your back foot. Now, for people who ride these style of bikes, the most common way is to do it with your back foot. So we'll start with that, and then I'll show you the opposite foot as well. So let's break this thing down, and I'll show you guys what I am actually doing. With the rear foot on my bike here, guys, all I'm doing is I'm rolling into it and sort of doing an endo 180, which is funny because we've touched on that a few times in this video. And what I'm doing is, with my rear foot, I'm then putting it on my front tire. So with my front foot, okay, this is one of those confusing ones it feels like. So with my rear foot on the front tire, the frame is then gonna go around this way. I need to just do it, I think.
I think so. You can slow-mo it.
Yeah, I'll show you. Oh, yeah, exactly. Okay. So watch my rear foot here, guys, which is the one closest to you right here. So I'm turning, and that's going onto the wheel just like that. And that's going, I'll do one coming the other way so you can see better. You guys can see it's going onto the tire. Now what's happening on the other side of the bike is, because I'm turning this way, my front foot is now in the way of the bike spinning. So what you have to do, which is sort of the coolest part, you have to get that leg over the frame, sort of jump it over the frame so it's out of the way and doesn't get caught up with the bike. So this foot right here, guys, you'll see, has to go over the frame. Like so. So I said earlier in this tutorial, guys, what I would touch on is you can either do it with your rear foot, which I've just explained to you, or you can do it with your front foot. In my opinion, this is probably the cooler looking foot jam tail whip, and I'll show you why. What you're gonna do this time around, guys, you're gonna turn the exact same way, but instead of putting your rear foot on the tire, of course, you're gonna put your front wheel onto the tire. As I touched on earlier, the frame's coming around that way. So what you have to do, guys, is turn into it and jump over the frame and land with that foot on the front tire. I think it's better if I had to show you guys what I mean. Let's do it. Okay, so now you guys have seen the two different options that you can take when it comes to getting into the trick, either your rear foot or your front foot. It's up to you to decide which one you think looks cooler or which one you want to sort of prefer to learn first. Now, let's start talking about some of the tricky parts. The whole duration while you're standing on your wheel and the frame's going around, that has to be the hardest part, because any slight inconsistency in the rotation, guys, completely sort of gets worse and worse as the bike goes around. Okay, we've had to slightly move spots yet again. We're now behind the lights here. But where I was at to was explaining how it's very tricky to get this trick perfectly dialed, because any little inconsistency with the kick or the rotation or the angle you're standing on can definitely get worse and worse as the rotation happens. It's a very specific trick, so let me give you some tips on how to really ace it. Something that helps me to keep my center of gravity straight and on the correct angle, really look at my front tire and where my bars are at and all that, and really try and make sure that when I get into the trick, my body is directly over the bars, just like that. If you come into the trick very fast, it's very easy to sort of overshoot like so and shoot out the side of the frame there. And if you go too slow into it, you can also have a similar thing where you sort of undercook it and then you're on this side of the tire. So again, comfortable pace. And again, I'm really looking at the front wheel, watching it turn, and I'm ready to stand on it as centered over the bars as I can be. Second tip I have for you guys is definitely do not do this trick too fast. What I mean by that is it's very easy to throw the bike around and have it absolutely flying really quickly because you want to get it back. That is not a good way of landing this trick, because once you get your feet back on the pedals, the bike wants to keep on going the way that it's spinning. So you definitely want to keep in mind that you want to throw the bike somewhat slower than you would think. Not crazy slow, but definitely not crazy fast. And here's another good tip, guys. When you're in it and you feel like maybe the bike's going a little too slow or you're losing balance, you can actually still sort of determine where the bike is by leaning and sort of steering with your bike. Sometimes it might go too low. You can actually pull the bars like so. And again, you can generate momentum, as you guys can see. Like slow, slow, slow. So it is capable of you really determining the speed of the bike. Okay, we sort of forgot to charge the batteries. We've got very minimal battery left, and obviously we've got no daylight left. So let's talk about jumping back onto the bike for the first time and what to look for and what to do. So if you guys go back to the start of this tutorial for the foot jam tail, you'll remember me talking about having my rear foot on the wheel or my front foot. For everyone who has tried it with their rear foot on the wheel, as you can see, it's gonna come around, and obviously I've got this problem here now. The bike's around, I'm ready to land on it. One thing's wrong though, my foot needs to obviously end up on the other side of the bike there, like so. As you guys can see there, I'm jumping over the frame with the foot that's on the tire to get it back on the side where it belongs, and then simply my front foot is just meeting up with the front pedal as I watch it come around. Now for all the people who took option number 2 of getting into the trick with your front foot, it's actually a lot easier now for you to land on the bike. As you guys remember, we're going to turn into the trick, we're going to jump over the frame and put our front foot onto the tire. And as you guys can see, it's a lot more simple, because when the bike comes around, the only movement I have to do to get back on the bike, your foot goes from there to there, and you're the man. Boom, front foot. So if you're wondering, guys, in my opinion, that's probably the harder version because the start is maybe a bit tricky. But again, it's just whatever you feel used to. Some of you might try that one and feel that's a lot better for you. It's definitely a lot easier sort of landing it again because your foot's already there, ready to go onto the pedal, as opposed to left foot having to go over and swap like that. Hopefully I covered everything. If you guys want, I'm happy to go more in depth, maybe in individual videos on these tricks. Drop comments below, let me know your questions. Other people jump in and help each other out. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hopefully I helped you guys out. Appreciate all the support. I'll see you in the next one. Yeah.